What if I told you that $3,300 was all you needed to become a millionaire? Well, if you want to be a millionaire, invest in the game of real estate. And today I'm going to show you how I did it on less than $5,000. So it's kind of weird. Like, society definitely has a financial game plan for us. They're like, oh yeah, like you should buy a house, but you should just try to pay it off. It's not really an investment property. It's just a place where you live. What you're supposed to do is put money in like a 401k. Haven't you heard? Like, your company will probably give you a match. It's like free money. You put $1 in, they put $1 in. Now you have $2. Trust me, by the time you get to retirement, it's going to be enough money. If you have some extra, put it in an IRA, maybe put something in the stock market. And bottom line is, that's kind of how you're going to financially do your life. But not once does anyone ever tell you that it's not going to work. Like, the average person at 65 years old that follows that plan has $254,000 in their retirement. Meanwhile, the person that gets involved in the game of real estate, where 90% of all millionaires are born, has a completely different experience and even has a chance to retire way earlier, like I did at the age of 26. I feel very fortunate that when I was going through college that I picked a telemarketing job that would have me talk to people about money. And I would basically interview them and gather financial data. And here's what I learned. Most of the people that were now in their 50s and 60s that had gone to college 30 years earlier, they only had a couple $100,000 set for retirement, maybe a half paid off house. Even though they were really fiscally responsible, they weren't going to enjoy the retirement that they wanted. I found a dude that had made over $10 million in real estate, and he gave me a different plan. He said, Kris, save up $5,000, put it in the bank, and when you have it saved up, we'll use it as a 3% down payment with a normal bank on a property that we get under market. And you know what? 14 months later, I had saved up my $5,000 and I found a property that was massively discounted. It was worth over $150,000. I bought it for $110,000. And the bank, they wanted a small 3% down payment, which just happened to be a little over $3,000. And the cool part is we moved into the 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom upstairs, even though it was an older home from the 40s. It also had a basement apartment with an exterior entrance that we rented to somebody. And when they paid us the $600 every month, it basically covered the mortgage, and we essentially lived for free. So my very first experience with real estate was so cool, which is why a year later, I went back to the bank and said, hey bank, I got some equity in here. They're like, you're right, you have about $50,000 of equity. I said, can I have some of it? And they're like, well, we'll give you $20,000 on like a line of credit. So I used my home equity line of credit, took the 20 grand, and I put it into my very next property called a non-owner occupied deal, which meant the first property that I wasn't going to occupy. It was a true investment property. And my house basically bought it for me, which is really kind of cool because when I rented that one out, I got paid $600 a month. And then a while later, I used the equity in it to buy my third house. And before you knew, it was like dominoes that were falling, so that by the time I got out of college, I had 25 homes. They were paying me $12,000 a month residually, which meant that I didn't have to work for that $12,000, and it also meant that I didn't need to get a job. At 26 years old, those 25 homes gave me personally a net worth of $1.6 million, and yet all I brought to the table was $3,300. So if you're watching this video, you might be skeptical that your current plan, like with your 401k, is ever going to make you a millionaire. And yet CNBC just reported that the average person believes they need $1.5 million to retire the way they want. And yet we know that at age 65, the average retirement balance, $254,000. Now here's what's really crazy about this. The average American as of 2024 that owns a home has an average of $299,000 of equity. That means that today, if you own a home, you're already even better off than 40 years of saving in a 401k. That's really crazy. And yet it's one of those things that makes you go, if I just had 5 houses with basically $299,000 of equity, there's my $1.5 million. Well, check it out. America is currently becoming a renter nation. There's a massive demand for quality rental properties, meaning that the opportunity to invest and take advantage of the market is right now, and it's better than it's been in years. Like the next decade, it's going to be amazing for single-family real estate because while multifamily is currently overbuilt, we're missing 7.2 million single-family homes. And basically, it's a setup for making cash flow king in your world, like that $12,000 meant that I didn't have to get a job. And it's pretty simple, right? Like you own a house and you got tenants and they pay rent. And after your expenses, what you have is monthly reoccurring, mostly passive cash flow. These properties become the building blocks of securing passive income that can support your desired lifestyle indefinitely if you just get enough homes. And frankly, that's just the first of several reasons to get into real estate, but I'm going to focus on three major ones today. And that's the first one, cash flow is king. Number two is called appreciation. Like, you were probably here in 2020 and 2021, right? We had this scamdemic thing going on, and what it meant for the game of real estate is that it appreciated massively because everyone was sent home, and all of a sudden people are like, oh no, like I got to wear this mask when I go out in public, but I don't have a job that I go to anymore. I've got to do my job at home. In which case I want a different house. Like I don't have an office in my house. I want it set up differently. Like my world is complicated by my family and friends or people that live here that are like constantly in my face. So I want something different. And what it did is it ushered in this huge problem of, well, we don't have enough houses for all you people that are dealing with that problem. And what it did is it drove up the price drastically. In fact, if you've owned a home for the last 5 years, it's gone up easily over $100,000 in value. That's called appreciation. Now, properties nearly always go up in value over time. Over the last 65 years, they go up nationwide an average of 4.65% year over year over year. And you might be thinking, I don't know, Kris, 4.65%, let's just round it up to 5%. 5% doesn't sound like a lot. But if you have a $300,000 home, 5% on a $300,000 home is 15 grand. Like this year, I just make $15,000 just because I own it and my net worth has gone up and someday I can harvest it and use it. Yeah, that's exactly how it works. And by the way, in 2021, it didn't go up 5%. It went up like 20%. So it wasn't $15,000. It was like, oh, $60,000. Like, that's amazing. Now, just to put a capstone on that, like if you own 10 homes and they each go up $10,000 every year, 10 homes at $10,000 a piece, that's $100,000. It's like, wait, I do nothing and my net worth goes up just $100,000 every year. Yeah, that's why 90% of all millionaires made it in the game of real estate. The third reason that we're going to talk about, of the many reasons out there, is leverage. The ability to leverage is one of the greatest benefits of real estate investment. Like you walk into a bank and you say, hey, I only have a little bit of money. Will you put up the rest of the money so that I can buy an appreciating asset that has really cool tax benefits? And the bank says yes. And so like my story, I put a 3% down payment. There are some banks that'll say put 5% down. If it's a home you're not going to live in, it's usually like 10 or 20% down. And don't get me wrong, it's a chunk of money that I think should come from your 401k or IRA or equity in another house or just hard work, because eventually the houses are going to buy the houses with potentially making you a mega millionaire with very little work from you. Now, here's what's cool about the game of leverage. If you put $1 in, the bank will put in the other $4. Or for every dollar that you put in on a 3% down payment, the bank's going to put the other $30 in. That is so cool that banks do that. You basically get to play with their money, you get to leverage their money, and you get to make money on their money. Now, where leverage gets really cool is this property over time goes up in value, or maybe you bought it below value, and then while you still own the property, you can pull some cash out of it and you can plunk it down on another house just like I did. And then later you can pull money out of both of these houses and buy a couple more houses, and then maybe you sell one and buy like 3 more. And before you know it, you got 25 homes like me, and you don't have to have a job because real estate just, it works for you. Well, listen, if this connected with you, I have something really cool to share with you. What would happen if I actually stepped into your shoes and actually gave you a game plan, just like my $10 million mentor gave me a free game plan? Well, I'm offering one of you those right now. Like if you click the link below and basically say, okay, Kris, like get with me. What would you do if you were in my shoes? What would your fastest path be to becoming a millionaire in real estate? Well, first of all, you need to understand that I don't care if you have good credit or bad credit or a lot of money or no money, a 401k or no 401k. The reality is, if you want to know from where you stand today, where your situation is great or awful or somewhere in between, if you want to know the fastest path to becoming a millionaire, I'm going to give it to you right now. Click the link below this. Just fill out your information. Let me be in touch. I'll show you how. Next up, is 6 figures still the magic number? Like trying to get to an income of $100,000 or more. If it's felt unobtainable, or if you finally got there and were a little disappointed, you're gonna wanna watch this video right here. Let me show you the new gold standard.